So to be completely transparent, I started writing this video over 2 years ago. This was around the time of the great Tumblr purge, and back then I had a very different direction I was going to take it in. I originally intended this to be a Fallen Titans-esque whatever happened to style video, but I got sidetracked and both my script and my sources sat minimized on my computer for over 1.5 years. I'm kind of glad though, because I don't think I was in a place 2 years ago where I could take the video in the direction that I do. So I hope you watch till the end, and please do enjoy the video. For those of you who didn't frequent Tumblr.com back in the day, like many other apps at the time, in 2018 the site made revisions to their terms and services. The website had often been seen and used as a place where self-expression and exploration were valid. Despite this, Tumblr also had a habit of fostering toxic communities. Both of these truths were aided by the fact that Tumblr had no policy condemning legal nudity or sexually explicit content. However, as of December 17th of that year, this was no longer the case. While I do think this is prevalent in our conversation, this won't actually be the topic of my video. Instead, today I wanted to talk about the fallen Tumblr icon of the name Zanetheaiden. Now, to give you some context, I'm going to ask you to travel back with me to 2014, one of the most formative years of my childhood. It was my last year of middle school, and I had spent the prior years desperately trying to convince people I was straight. I would say that just because I hadn't dated any girls, and just because I didn't have any male friends, didn't mean that I liked men. But when my biological clock finally started ticking, I was so ashamed that people's preconceptions could be true. The very idea that someone could see who I was before I was who I am terrified me, and to be honest, still does. By 8th grade, I was isolated, confused, and desperate for validation. And that's when I found fandoms, the internet, and Tumblr. Zanetheaiden, Zanetheaiden, Zayden Bladen, Prince Zane, Captain Prince, or Jackson, was a prominent Tumblr blogger from around 2013 till December of 2015. In many ways, he was a proto-influencer, before influencer became a term in the current culture of social media. He dominated all aspects of his social media presence, and had a substantial amount of fans in his following. Though it seemed like he was truly thriving, on December 5th of 2015, Zanetheaiden deactivated his Tumblr account, dropped all connected social media, and from my knowledge, hasn't made public content since.
A boy came to a dark room at the end of the longest road he'd ever trekked. There was no light, save for a torch on the wall, and no way back from whence he came.
His first and most iconic claim to fame can all be traced back to a cello, a bathroom selfie, and a really bad pun. At some point before June of 2014, Zane took this mirror selfie and posted it to Tumblr. While I was unable to find the original date of posting, reblogs of the original chain still exist. The caption of the post reads,
"Why cello there?"
"It's so stupid, and yet so funny." Before this, his blog was on the smaller side of Tumblr relevancy. In this iteration of the reblog chain, you can see Zane's reaction to its initial popularity.
"This has 130 notes? Y'all need to chill. This wasn't that funny."
Keep this quote in mind. Despite how little thought went into making this post, the level of attention it garnered continued to grow. Shortly after, he had reached 500 followers, reblogging this post again in disbelief.
"This is the post that put me over 500 followers. I hate everything."
But on July 4th of 2014, Mel Spencer, a musical journalist, posted an article entitled,
"The 10 Worst Things About Playing the Cello."
The last of the reasons she listed was simply a link to Zane's Tumblr post with the caption of, "This guy." Obviously, Spencer's was just making a harmless joke about a viral meme, but because of Zane's rapidly growing follower count, it wasn't long before he found the article. Rather than getting annoyed or just ignoring it, Zane made the smart choice of making a Tumblr post out of it. In the post, he systematically went down Spencer's list, relating and responding to each point with a selfie. Once he got to the last point,
"Yep, that's me." That's me. Motherfucker, you wanna play?
This post did even better than the first. This was aided later by Zane's additional response to a BuzzFeed article entitled,
25 problems only people who have played in a school orchestra will understand.
The post, which now sits at 287,865 notes, solidified three main things on the 𝘂𝐸𝐸𝐸𝐸 blog. First, it forever solidified Zane as the cello guy. Next, it solidified Zane's comfort with posting selfies. And lastly, it solidified him as Tumblr famous. This was actually the first post I found of Zane. Though he gained notoriety through this post, his online relevancy only continued to grow. So picture this. It's 2014, and lonely closeted Cole spends all of his time looking at Homestuck fan art in Google Images. It's the summer before your freshman year, and you're looking to reinvent yourself and make some new friends. You've started using Tumblr to connect with some people from your new high school, and while scrolling down your feed, you see somebody reblog this cello post. It's pretty funny, so you start to scroll through this cello guy's blog. That's when you start to think, dang, this guy's kinda cool. I think I'll give him a follow.
It was an odd room, both black and white in the pure light, and on the wall before him there were 3 doors.
When it came to the game of Tumblr relevancy, Zane's particular abilities and interests gave him an edge on making viral posts. The first of these advantages was his sheer ability to shitpost like no other. It's been frustrating making this video because over the span of the last 6 years, a lot of Zane's existence on the internet has faded into oblivion. The URL of his blog was almost immediately reclaimed, so a lot of the details on his online persona have either been overwritten or lost. However, despite this, his shitposts live on independently from their creator.
A vampire masturbating in front of a mirror. Bet you didn't see that coming.
This lol-so-random kind of humor was, and still is, the lifeblood of Tumblr. The second of these advantages was Zane's active presence in and around fandoms. For those of you who don't know, Tumblr is predominantly run by fangirls and stans, so if you learn to speak fandom, you'll have no problem finding a home. Zane resided in many different fandoms, from the Republic of Super 𝘠𝑢𝑙𝑜𝑘 to the nomadic Brony tribes. But by far his longest occupancy was in the nation-state of Homestuck. Zane had aspirations to be a professional voice actor. Over his time on Tumblr, he was a member of many different voice acting troupes, from anime dubs to comic let's reads. On January 20th of 2014, he uploaded his first YouTube video, a let's read of Homestuck High, a notorious bad Homestuck fanfiction.
Hello everyone, and welcome to Zanetheaiden's first ever fanfic night.
It seemed like he was proud of his voice, and for obvious reasons. But his third advantage over the plebeian fan blogs abound was actually his face. In short, he was hot as fuck. And by that I mean, he was a conventionally attractive white guy with abs. Part of me feels bad for inferring that his physical attraction was part of his advantage in gaining Tumblr popularity, but I think he owned it. He was constantly posting photos and selfies, and to say the least, he was very sex positive. But sadly, a lot of these selfies were lost when he deleted his blog. Just a point of clarity, I don't want to make it sound like Zane was narcissistic or vain, because he was anything but. He was confident in how he looked and who he was, but that wasn't the reason I found him important. I used to hate the idea of being queer. At first, it was a general discomfort around queer people. But once hitting puberty, it manifested in a deep self-hatred in myself. I'll admit that while part of the reason I followed Zane was for the funny fandom content, there's also a part of me that followed him because I thought he was attractive. I don't think I would have ever said it at the time, but I looked up to him. He was this cool, confident, self-respecting guy who everybody wanted to be friends with. And I was a scared, insecure bi kid who knew that nobody would want to be friends with him.
He chose the door farthest to the left. Behind the door, the floor dropped out and he saw the world as it was without him. He stepped out, hovering above the heads of the damned.
So, truth be told, it's not really that hard to find relevancy on social media. Whether it's stealing tweets or promoting vitamins, nowadays people set out to win social media. However, Zane didn't set out to be an e-boy. He stumbled cello first into it. While it would be so easy for someone in his position to ride out his success posting thirst traps and racking in notes, Zane ran his blog with empathy, education, and activism. He was a vocal ally against racial injustice and police brutality. Zane was openly bi and very LGBT+ friendly. In a lot of ways, because I looked up to him, he normalized what it meant to be queer. In my mind, I had an idea of what being bi meant, but seeing Zane subverted all those preconceptions. Zane was also a big activist in promoting mental health issues. He often made and reblogged posts to spread awareness. While his blog itself was very woke, his empathy was apparent across platform. When you're in a position of being a social media idol, you're gonna have people admiring you. There are certain content creators who say they're thankful for their fans, and then there's certain content creators who only see numbers. Zane didn't see fans, he saw people. When someone would make a post about Zayden Bladen, their Tumblr crush, Zane would follow them back and strike up a conversation. When someone would make fan art of Zanetheaiden, he'd reblog it and follow the artist. When Prince Zane saw people struggling, he'd check in and see if they were okay. I don't know how he didn't see it. Because I already idolized Zane, the idea of being socially conscious and empathetic became cool by association. I slowly gained more confidence in myself and came to terms with my own bisexuality. I started getting into activism and using Tumblr as a whole. I also started this YouTube channel, which at the time made content relating to my sexual identity. He was a big inspiration to me at that point in my life, and I strive to be as perfect as I saw him.
They couldn't see him, and he couldn't touch them, and on it went for years. There was no way back to the room before, but he was content with this.
So here we go. Because I had such a crush on Zane, I was aware of most of his social media at the time. One of the things I admired about him was how open he seemed with both his body, with his beliefs, and with his life. At some point in early 2015, after he turned 18, he was operating his main blog, a not safe for work blog, a voice acting Fiverr, and 3 separate YouTube channels. He would upload videos just talking about his life and his childhood. On March of 2015, his main blog broke 24K followers. At this point, he was preparing for his first year in college. In October of the same year, he started a gaming channel where he played dating sims and horror games.
I do not wish to be your enemy. I am not a fuckboy.
He was less involved in the Homestuck fandom, but was still very active on Tumblr. Then on December 15th of 2015, Zane deleted his Tumblr, all of the associating blogs, and went inactive on all connected social media. And thus was the end of Zanetheaiden, the Tumblr icon. So, flash forward to late 2018. Cole's completely come to terms with his identity and now has real-life friends who love and support him. It's your last year of high school, and you notice that there's a bunch of commotion coming from your old Tumblr community. You log back on and see that apparently the platform is banning all not safe for work blogs. You start to think back on your time using the site, and then suddenly remember that cute cello guy who went missing. You think, that would make a great idea for a YouTube essay. I'll frame it around how he was so perfect before completely vanishing off the face of the internet. You start to do a little research, and you find that apparently his blog has been converted into a fine Zanetheaiden blog, but then ultimately you get sidetracked by moving to college. Flash forward again to a couple weeks ago. I'm cleaning out my email inbox for the first time in forever when I see this. I started thinking back on how much I idolized this guy, and I genuinely wanted to know what happened to him. He had such an impact on the person I am today, and such a presence on the internet, that it just didn't make sense why he would leave. I started looking through his old YouTube content and posts. I remember watching these videos when I was younger, and feeling a sense of unattainability to what he was talking about. I mean, I watched the videos because I liked him, but I didn't get what he was saying. Now when I watch these videos, I don't see a guy who has everything planned out. I see a kid who's worried about the future. Eventually, I found this. It's a screenshot of a conversation he had when leaving Tumblr.
There's apparently a search effort for you.
I saw.
What prompted you to delete?
I didn't enjoy Tumblr anymore. And people were very hostile to me for no real reason.
People were mean to you? I'll kick their asses.
It's aight. It got boring and I felt like I didn't belong. People either idolized me or hated me. I didn't talk to my friends from there much anymore.
That makes sense.
It didn't bother me terribly much, but it was just like, everyone here is a dick. Why would I want to stay?
That's fair. I could also tell you were a bit uncomfortable with people always asking you for help.
I really couldn't be responsible for those people. And the fact that I wasn't allowed to screw up didn't help.
Yeah, I imagine it's a lot of pressure to have a popular blog.
Everyone either acted hostile or idolized me. There were many times when I was put in a position that I was not qualified for, and that took a bit of a toll. After a while, it became clear that I kinda didn't belong, and since I'd fallen out of contact with most of my friends from there, other than people I had the numbers of, it was really just a matter of time before I got the nerve to quit. One day, I just got tired and deleted without too much thought, and I can't say I really regret it. It was fun while it lasted. I'm glad I got to meet the people I did. I really am, but this is what's best for me. Can you send this to them?
Having read that really changed the way I saw Zane and myself. To me, he was unreal. I was viewing Jackson's persona as something above me to aspire to. He always looked like he knew what he was doing. I mean, even in this video, I've been framing him as a fallen titan or a martyr, and I'm only just now realizing he was just a guy who wanted some friends. I think that part of him resented the fame aspect of Tumblr fame. While looking through his archived posts, I found a version of his cello post where he reblogged the following.
This is it. This is fucking it. This is the legacy I leave on this godforsaken website. This is what future generations will remember me for after all is said and done and the world dies down. This is what will be recorded in the annals of history as the one thing I achieved in my entire existence, and it's the stupidest goddamn thing I could have possibly done. With 3 words, I immortalized myself as the cello guy, not knowing what I wrought, and here we now stand. 165,000 notes is way too many. 10,000 followers is way too many. Everything is way too many. This wasn't that funny, but here we are. Here we are, sad and tired and full of regret at the cusp of the world, and here I will rot with what could have been. Know that I mean it from the bottom of my heart when I say that I loathe each and every one of you bastards for doing this. Chill out.
Clearly, there's an element of sarcasm, but I think there's some sincerity behind his words. I've taken the time to recontextualize Jackson's content, and he really is just a person. In one of his videos, he talks about struggling to make friends, going through puberty, and having the most formative years of his childhood. It makes me sad, because I'm sitting here watching these videos, and I'm seeing somebody that I could totally have been friends with in high school. I thought about why it took me so long to see Zane as Jackson. And ultimately, I think it's because of the age difference. When I was desperate for validation at 14, he was 17 and socializing on Tumblr. When I was 16 and socializing on Tumblr, he was 19 and over it. Now I'm 20 and I sit here looking at this 19-year-old I used to idolize, and I realize how unfair it was for me to have put him in that position. And I can tell that fragments of those feelings still exist. It's this idea that by seeing where he is today, I can somehow validate myself. That maybe he'll see this video and he'll reach out to say, "Good job, Cole, you're doing great." But I don't know Jackson. I've never known Jackson. He's this 24-ish guy who majored in who knows what at who knows where. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what happened to Jackson. This video is not about Jackson. It's not about Zane. It's about me. It's about me and my own insecurities and my need for validation. I always feel better when I can see myself in other people. I mean, I thought I was over it, but in the same way I idolized Zane to cope with who I was, I'm using the idea of Jackson to conceptualize my own insecurities. I don't like who I am. I mean, I've grown a lot as a person, and I've accepted some stuff that is hard to accept, but expecting somebody else to fix your own problems is not only unrealistic, but it's unfair. I feel like there's this expectation on the internet that everybody has to be as polished as perfect. I mean, it's fun, we all contribute to it, it's a game, but it's damaging. I'm damaged. I'm damaged, and it's taken me till just now to realize that. So yeah, this was a video. Zane or Jackson, I don't think you're watching this video, but I just wanted to say that I'm sorry. You don't know me, and you probably don't care, but I do. I'm sorry that I didn't get you. I'm sorry that you were put in a position that you didn't ask for. And honestly, I'm sorry that I made this video. But I hope you're doing well. I'm gonna go now. Yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.
The people he saw had lives their own, and struggles plenty, and as many ants conquered the leaves, so too did the people of the world conquer their mountains. He saw the first man to live forever, and he did not envy him. There's probably not going to be anybody who can fix you, so you have to go and fix yourself. And that's how you have to live life.